Hello and welcome to Business Today Television. I'm Siddharth Zarabi and you're watching Easynomics. On the show today with us, R Gopalan, former Economic Affairs Secretary in the Union Ministry of Finance, Saugata Bhattacharya, Senior Economist, Aditi Phadnis, the political editor of the Business Standard newspaper. Welcome to all of you. On the show today, viewers, we want to try and shift the focus away from the election results and all the volatility that we saw in the markets, and also move beyond the fact that there is continuity with some change in the new Council of Ministers, particularly the cabinet. The big four retained by the BJP, and for our discussion today, Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman, back firmly at North Block, is going to take charge again on Wednesday, and as she does, all attention will be focused on the forthcoming budget. And I want to start the show today with a comment from Saugata here. Saugata, because I want to bring the focus of our viewers on what is likely to be the prescription for the economy that Modinomics 3.0 will set through the 11th full budget of this government. And as you answer that, I want to remind our viewers that it was 2019 when Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman undertook that very, very important and historic cut in corporate tax rates for existing companies from 30% to 22% and for new manufacturing companies to 15%. Saugata, the aim was that this will free up corporate cash, and that cash will go into capex and resultingly also create jobs. The jury is still out on whether that succeeded. Should this budget now be an event where Finance Minister and the government reviews that decision and comes up with a new deal?
So, good evening, Siddharth. Thank you for having me on your show. First, a couple of points. One, I think the government has done an excellent job in maintaining fiscal discipline, bringing in fiscal consolidation, etc., which has been handsomely rewarded by global investors, domestic investors, etc. I see no reason to deviate from this path, because remember, there are multiple problems that will need to be addressed, but nothing so dramatic and so dangerous that this needs a deviation from the path of fiscal consolidation. Two things. The interim budget had forecast a 5.1% fiscal deficit. My own guess is they will probably reduce it slightly, maybe 5%. If they are adventurous, maybe a little bit more. The dividend from RBI, dividend from all the public sector institutions, including banks, will be much, much larger than the 1 lakh crores that they had budgeted in that interim budget. So that will give them maneuvering space to do a whole lot of things. On the capex front, I don't think there will be any significant increase in the capex, because remember, from the centre's point of view, the main areas for the centre's capex, things like roads, telecom, railways, a little bit of ports, etc. Of these, only a little bit remains in terms of actually a little bit remains in terms of the railways. Most of the others are already done. Telecom is mostly privatized. So on the capex front, they will probably not increase anymore. But on the revenue side, I think there will be a significant increase in the outlays for many programs. One thing, this is a bit reckless in getting into Aditi's territory, which is political economy. Remember, one of the key lessons that they would probably have learned from the election results is that a little bit of a downplaying on the front facing, all the programs of electricity, housing, gas cylinders, etc., cooking cylinders, etc., that had been a hallmark before the pre-pandemic, in the pre-pandemic years. That will probably now need to be accelerated once again, which is exactly what you saw in the first couple of actions from the Prime Minister and his cabinet. So I think there will be an increase in the revenue expenditures, revenue spends in certain programs, probably the PM Kisan and the Manrega scheme. But on the overall front, I do not expect in fact, an acceleration in the path of fiscal consolidation is something that I expect from the forthcoming budget.
Okay, several points made there. Before I go to the former policy maker who has the experience of many budgets, Mr. Gopalan, I will first go to Aditi. Aditi, and I revisit that question that 2019 was the year when that big bonanza was announced for corporate India. The hope was corporate India will invest, hundreds and thousands of jobs will be created. 2024 election result has shown us that there is significant stress in certain parts of the economy. Do you think Prime Minister Modi, whose imprint on budgets has been visible all these 10 years, is going to undertake a course correction, or will it be continuation of what has been done in the past, particularly in the interim budget?
Well, the result is clear that, and everywhere we went during the campaign, we found that there were two criticisms of the government. One, high prices, inflation, high prices of everyday goods, everyday consumable commodities, and the other one was jobs. So I think the BJP is quite clear that it needs to do everything that has jobs as the central focus. And I'm pretty sure that already there are many memos are being exchanged. I know for a fact that the BJP has submitted a memo to the Finance Ministry in which it has said that it would like to see escalated manufacturing, which is labor intensive. Now, I'm not sure if this is of a part with the priorities of the government, but these are the political priorities. That much is absolutely clear.
Okay, it is a political priority, that is absolutely clear. That's the word from Aditi Phadnis. Mr. Gopalan, you have many budgets under your belt. If you were back in North Block in your former policy making seat, what kind of budget would you propose that the new government unveil?
First, I will keep the fiscal discipline as has been followed so far intact. That's important for the economy's strength and the financial markets to work well. But there are a lot of underlying problems in the economy, which one needs to factor in. For instance, unemployment is 7.6%. Need is 32% for the age group 15 to 29. Poverty level is 20% in rural and 15% in urban. Wages, self-employed and wage earners is negative in the last 5 years. So, consumption has only marginally increased for the bottom 10%, but assets of the household of bottom 40% is less than 3 to 6%. So, this is a very, very important factor which the government has to bear in mind if they want to have overall growth, sustainable growth in the economy. A lot of achievements have happened in the past 10 years. They are very, very significant, but the economy has to be watchful on a few things. The productivity decline has been there steeply, except in the last 3 years, which is shown and reflected in the icon. Investment is about 31%. We need to go to about 40%, mostly through private investment, to get a 7.5 to 8% growth on a sustainable basis. Labor force participation must increase, and incomes to labor must also increase. Then macro stability, including inflation, needs to be looked into. These are some aspects which the government is certainly focused on. There are a number of places, number of areas in which the government can really work on this. Whenever I get the next opportunity, I'll be in a position to tell them in detail.
Okay. Saugata Bhattacharya, in the interim budget announcement, I recall Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman hinting towards and saying that there will be next generation reforms. Hopefully we will have more details on that in her next budget speech, but from your vantage point, given that there is a coalition, what kind of reforms can we expect, and more importantly, that are required at this stage of our economic journey?
So, in terms of the required reforms, we all know this has been extensively discussed. All the factor markets, so-called factor markets, land, labor, a little bit of electricity, last mile electricity, etc. So those are really what needs to be changed, tweaked in terms of the ability to lead to productivity gains, which can sustain a 7% growth. Remember, the need to grow at 7%, particularly from the vantage of, from the lens of jobs, is very, very critical. So, I mean, so without some of these reforms, it's very difficult to maintain the tempo of growth. My problem is that irrespective of a coalition government, etc., that can still be managed. But these far-reaching reforms, which are needed, I mean, and these will not happen fast. It's a gradual process. There needs to be a very close coordination between the center and the states. Remember that the four labor codes are stuck because some states have still not drafted their own labor codes. But be that as it may, so these are the ones that are required, and these are what will require extensive consultation with the states. The immediate thing, to my point of view, is, as you mentioned, Aditi also mentioned, the focus on manufacturing and particularly MSMEs, which is, I think, a critical measure. I mean, we have to get more credit out to MSMEs. What kind of guarantee schemes, credit funds, etc., the center can set up is something that we will be watching from the budget.
Okay. Aditi, one of the things that has happened post the election results is that several sectors are less in favor of investors, and some sectors that were not so much in favor have come to the forefront. Without discussing individual stocks, the markets seem to be of the belief that this government will provide a boost to consumption, and that is why those stocks that could conceivably benefit from such a consumption boost are rising. Are the markets correct in reading the situation? Is this how Prime Minister Narendra Modi responds to public feedback? Because the choice of ministers and the continuity that we have seen could also suggest to some people that the Prime Minister will continue on the path that he himself has set out and defined for himself long back.
If you are talking about consumption in terms of, things like toothpaste, for instance, or soap, or Relaxo Chappal, without naming any specific company, then I think it may take time for expectations and for sentiment to revive. But I know that the government is very, very bullish on creating new avenues for spending. During the campaign, I was in UP, I went to Lucknow, and people told me that there is a change in tastes and there is a change in consumer habits. People want better things, they want a higher quality, they want branded goods, but they don't necessarily want to go back to the old tested Colgate toothpaste. So all I'm saying is, I don't know what direction it will go in, but consumption actually is already on the uptick, as far as I can tell.
Okay, Aditi, much of the losses that the BJP on its own have suffered are in what are defined as constituencies which are predominantly rural. Now, caste factors, Dalit consolidation, constitution is under threat, the Congress promise of 1 lakh rupees, all of that may have played out. But is there a political requirement for the ruling alliance to perhaps respond to those electoral reversals on account of economic difficulties as well?
Well, I'm sure there will be, as the BJP calls it, a manthan. And I'm sure there will be a lot of introspection on why the BJP lost. I mean, even as we speak, I think that process has already started. But certainly what we heard from the ground, you cannot ignore, and the BJP ignores at its peril. And this was, once again, issues of jobs. When I went to Vidarbha, for instance, an area which is well known for farmer suicides, what I heard was that the BJP Vidarbha unit had made 12,000 calls to people to solicit support. And out of that, they said many people, with a laugh, they said many people called us and gave us, abuses also, because they said नौकरी नहीं है, काम नहीं है, लेकिन वोट आपको ही देंगे. So all I'm saying is people have voted for BJP in large numbers because of India's first past the post system. In some places, the vote percentage has increased, but the seat has been lost. So basically, I mean, the operation was successful with the patient died. But that apart, I think basic issues, water availability, irrigation issues, issues of livelihood, these are things that the BJP cannot afford to ignore after this kind of a result.
Saugata, the monsoon so far, at least the most initial projections seem to suggest that everything will be good as far as the monsoon is concerned. We also have a new agriculture minister who has tremendous and vast experience at the state level of actually making the farm sector a viable, successful contributor to the state's economic growth. Is the farm sector worth a deeper focus, and what kind of expectations would you have of the new dispensation on that front?
So this is absolutely this link between low consumption, farm sector distress, and unemployment. All three are inextricably linked together. I mean, each one is dependent on the other, and each one feeds into the other. So to my mind, I mean, there is absolutely no doubt that improving Indian agricultural productivity has to be a large part of the sustained growth story. No country has been able to, unless we get our farm sector right, we will not be able to get our manufacturing, we will not get our services. If we want to get jobs, and remember, the farm sector will actually be losing a lot of jobs. They will be freeing up a lot of jobs, which has to be absorbed into the other sectors. So what do we do about the farm sector? One, of course, are to get all the MSPs right, so that farming is now perceptibly being considered non-remunerative. So that is one factor that needs to be changed. That has to be balanced against the fear of rising inflation because of higher MSP prices. So that's one balance that needs to be struck. The other part in terms of farms is what the experience of the Madhya Pradesh, the farm economy has been. So one is to move some crops out of cereals and staples onto more commercial crops, but that increases risk because if there's a weather failure or some climate related issues, that suffers. So you need to have a very good insurance scheme for farm produce. And number three, direct interventions for farmers in terms of direct subsidies, direct payouts, etc. Both in the that happened in the Telangana as well as the in MP. Needs to be, I think, implemented in some measure depending on the territory region. Remember, MP's the program, which was, I don't remember the name of the program, to close the gap between the MSPs and the farm produce. That was wildly successful. So that's something that I think needs to be put in place. So pricing will remain a very key issue. Together with that, outlays and subsidies to farmers, depending on the level of incomes, etc. These will be the main pillars. But I have absolutely no doubt that the farm sector, alleviating the distress in the farm sector, will be critical to sustaining growth.
Mr. Gopalan, can we expect any major moves on the direct tax front, because GST is now out of just the purview of the union budget? There is the Federal Council to consider for that. Are there any major moves that we should expect at this stage, the first budget of this government?
Well, we thought that, direct tax code would have been a good alternative. It was there in the UPA, but then it was with the works. Somehow it did not, see the light of the day, and also in NDA it is not being talked about very vociferously. In my view, that will be a good move if you are able to get it back on trail. That requires tremendous amount of simplification of laws and stability in rates, so which will be extremely interesting and advantageous for industries too. make their investments as we go along. So that's one thing which not in this budget, not in the next budget, maybe the budget after that I expect that get unfolded.
Aditi, is Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman, who is now going to come out and pad up for her seventh budget in a row, is she
Final
on a
budget.
is she on a strong wicket, Aditi, to deliver on some of the expectations and also manage the manner in which Modinomics has played out?
Well, Siddharth, when I spoke to her, to the finance minister, soon after she had presented the interim budget, I expressed a degree of disappointment that women-headed households below, for the low-income groups, the women were supposed to get, they now get 3,000, they were supposed to get 6,000 rupees as an allowance. And I said that, we were expecting it to be doubled. So she said, wait for the final budget. So I asked her why, because in 2019, the interim budget and the final budget were almost the same. Her answer was that things were tight in 2019. This time, you will see changes. So I think in the final budget there will be some new things, particularly for the to accommodate the demands of the alliance partners like JDU and TDP, which will require a significant infusion of funds, and there will be other outlays also for states which are now going for elections in the coming days. As you know, Maharashtra, Jharkhand and Haryana are due for polls towards the end of the year. So I think you will see a lot of changes. As far as her political position is concerned, I think she has proved herself, beyond question, and her appointment as finance minister yet again suggests a degree of rapport and faith between the Prime Minister and her, and her capacity to handle complicated issues. So politically, she is, I think, now unassailable.
Okay, unassailable politically. Some hints towards what the next budget could have and may not have are already available, but incoming Minister for Petroleum and Natural Gas, who is returned to the portfolio, Hardeep Singh Puri, today made an important remark which could have ramifications as far as disinvestment and privatization are concerned. Let's take a quick listen in.
BPCL is concerned, let me say now categorically, these are all highly successful oil and gas PSUs. Why would we divest ourselves of these, what do you call them, Maharatnas? You were being privatized at a certain amount. They made more money than in the first 3 quarters, And today I think the results of the oil and gas PSUs speak for themselves. I mentioned they've done well, and I wish them the best of luck in the coming time also. And I think between them and the private sector players, I think the oil and gas sector is a crucial part of the economic growth story.
पेट्रोलियम प्रोडक्ट्स अंडर जीएसटी, ये बहुत स्टेटमेंट आते, क्या एक कंसेंसस बनाने की कोशिश होगी?
मैं आपको एक चीज बताऊं, आपकी शब्दावली मुझे बहुत पसंद है. कोशिश होगी, आंसर इज कैटेगोरिकली कोशिश होगी. No, hold on. I am giving you my philosophical approach. I mean, as a line minister, you say कोशिश होगी means you try. I said yes, we will try. Both MOS and I will both work on it.
कोशिश होगी, but क्या वो कोशिश सक्सेसफुल होगी, we don't know. But viewers, that was a small hint at what is likely to happen, and more such hints will come. As we wind down this conversation, Mr. Gopalan, explain to our viewers, those who might be curious, how would the demands of special assistance, special package for a state like Andhra or Bihar be met? When this has happened in the past, what is the normal course? Does it have to go through some facets of a finance commission type of process, or can it be done between the state and the center, and is the budget an instrument for that?
Well, the Finance Commission has given its award. So it is once in 5 years, so there cannot be any intermediate change in award by the Finance Commission. It will have to go through the budget. One way the government can look at it is that, look at all the states which have been bifurcated after 2000. Now you have got Chhattisgarh, Uttarakhand, and now it is Bihar, then you have got Andhra Pradesh. So you can say that these states which have been bifurcated, who have got revenue deficit at that point in time, one can look at it and try and say a certain percentage of that we will meet from the budget. Now, looking at that, today, RBI has given about 0.4% savings in the budget of the GDP for the budget to work on. Then 0.2% has been a reduction in the actual deficit for the last year. So there is enough room available for the government to work on this, and I have a feeling that the operation of this will be through the budget.
Okay. And do you think, Mr. Gopalan, this budget will be the one, or will it need some more negotiations, discussions between the alliance partners before we see some sort of special assistance for these two states and perhaps more?
I don't think it will be only to these two states. Look at it. If you say only these two states, what is the criteria you will adopt? Suppose you say after 2000 states that have been bifurcated are the ones which will be getting this benefit, based on some formula, you will find Andhra Pradesh, Chhattisgarh, Uttarakhand, Jharkhand, and those states can get the benefit. You will have to work out a methodology by which you are able to look into the revenue deficits over a period of time, and then try and see what percentage of that you will be in a position to contribute from the central budget, so that you are able to help them to overcome the revenue deficits and the difficult financial situation they are placed in. So I have a feeling that some formula will be worked out that will have a lot of consultations with the state governments also. So it's a process which is more political in nature, and I'm sure this government will do.
Okay. Viewers, I want to leave you with one final graphic on the screen for you to appreciate and the point that Mr. Gopalan made. We also heard on day one of this government that the center has released almost 1.49 lakh crore to states in terms of the tax devolution. The interim budget for the current year had initially allocated 12.19 lakh crore. And if we get those details up on the screen with us, the Finance Ministry said that this decision is aimed to empower state governments. Within the tax devolved on the 10th of June, Uttar Pradesh got just over 25,000 crore, 25,069 crore to be very specific. Bihar followed with 14,000 crore, 14,056. Madhya Pradesh almost 11,000 crore, 10,970. A similar sum thereabouts for West Bengal. Maharashtra 8,828 crore, Rajasthan 8,421, Odisha 6,327, Tamil Nadu 5,700, Andhra Pradesh 5,655, and Karnataka 5,096. Now, this is
Siddharth, these are all Finance Commission work. There should not be any surprises.
Absolutely. No, the point I was coming to, Mr. Gopalan, was that do you think that this budget could therefore allocate a higher amount?
It should. If you want to assist the states because of the political process they have asked for, now you have made a pact with them, obviously you will have to find ways and means of doing it. I only indicated to you one methodology in which the Government of India can work on it. There may be many other methodologies which the Government of India will certainly examine, and that will also involve discussions with the state governments concerned, and also probably with other states as well, who will feel that they have been deprived. So this is going to be a process, and this will not be over in 1 year. I have a feeling this will
Okay.
take at least two budgets to really, complete.
At least two budgets. Aditi, last 30 seconds, will the demands and needs, political needs of states that are going to elections first, Maharashtra, for example, or Jharkhand, take precedence over Andhra and Bihar? In Maharashtra, we already have the Maratha agitation once again, and the chief agitator there is even refusing intravenous fluid. So clearly, perhaps getting the politics of Maharashtra correct will be a bigger priority.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And this Maratha agitation is going to be a very complicated thing to handle. Jarangi Patil, who is the leader of the agitation, has already said that he wants X number of Maratha candidates to be fielded by whichever party is going to contest the election, and he will choose whether to go to which party to go with. So yes, it's a complicated thing. The matter has gone to the government. The assembly has passed the resolution, but the Supreme Court has altered it. So it's also mired in a degree of legal complications. But you're absolutely right. On the forefront will be all these political issues, but in the background will also be the bitter struggle that farmers are facing in areas which are, rain-fed and have
Yes.
low irrigation capacities. And God forbid there is another crisis on the commodity side, and you will find, I think, a very militant farmer community in Maharashtra.
Absolutely, viewers. So lots and lots that will have to be watched out for. And as I leave you some breaking news at this stage, four-time MLA Mohan Charan Manjhi is the new Chief Minister of Odisha. KV Singh Deo and Prabhati Parida are the Deputy Chief Ministers. And remember, Odisha, a state where the Bharatiya Janata Party has had a remarkable success. Dharmendra Pradhan remains in the Union Cabinet with his old portfolio. Mr. Gopalan, Saugata and Aditi, thank you very much for your time with us today as we begin our coverage of Modinomics 3.0 and the possible contours of the forthcoming budget, a budget which by all reckoning seems to be one where continuity will be present with a little bit of change. I'll see you again. Until then, goodbye.